The great thing about Google Sheets is that it combines the spreadsheet utility with the real-time collaboration and updating power of Google. Let's take a look at the basics of Google Sheets. So I like to start from my Drive when making new documents, but of course, there's lots of ways to make things in Google. When you're in Drive, you can go to New and Google Sheets. This will open up a new sheet for you. Alternatively, you can go to sheets.new or sheets.google.com. And of course, the first thing you should do is to give your spreadsheet a title. I'm actually going to switch over to a sheet that is already in my Drive. I've already made because it has some data in it already, and I thought it might be better for us to look at that. It would just make more sense if we could see data already in the sheet. So it's easy to click in any of these areas and just type data. So don't stress about that. What I've done here is I've put in some pretend students with some pretend grades, and I just want to take a few minutes to show you some of the things about spreadsheets that are unique. If you look at the top, you'll see basically the same menus that we saw in Google Docs. But if you click anywhere on the sheet, you'll notice that the cursor will follow you. If you look over here to the left, you'll notice that rows have numbers and columns have letters. And once you realize that, you'll realize that spreadsheets are set up pretty much like the old game of Battleship, right? So wherever you are, that cell has a number and a letter. For example, right now I'm in H18, and that is called the cell address. So anytime also that I click on something down here, notice it also appears up here in this bar, and this is called the formula bar. Also, if I type something down here, like another student's name, then it also appears in the formula bar. So it appears in both places. That's simply how this spreadsheet works. So let's check out a few of these menus and see what's different here, what's unique to spreadsheets. Starting with File. Under File, one of the things you'll see, a lot of the same stuff you'll see, but one of the things that makes spreadsheets different is that we can import. We can import other spreadsheets. So if you've been working, say, in Microsoft Excel, and you'd like to bring those spreadsheets into Google Spreadsheets, you can do that. And that will give you the power to collaborate with others on those sheets and to share them in ways that are dynamic instead of static. You can, of course, share an Excel spreadsheet, but it can't be manipulated the way a Google spreadsheet can. Let's check out Edit. Under Edit is something called Paste Special, and this is also related to the import feature. If you're bringing in another spreadsheet, you might not want to bring the whole thing. Perhaps you want to paste the values only, which means just the data without the formatting. Or maybe you just want to bring the formatting without the data. It's good to know that you do have options here, that you can, not bring in everything, or you can just go ahead and bring in everything. Under View is one of my favorite features, and that's called Freeze. So have you ever had a spreadsheet that had a lot of data in it? And then when you started to scroll, you would lose your headings and you wouldn't know what information you were really looking at because you couldn't remember which column was which. Well, Google gives you the option to freeze several rows, and typically you only need to freeze one row. When I click on freeze, notice a thick gray line appears under the first row. You can't tell because this is a short spreadsheet, but if this were a long spreadsheet, I could scroll and I could keep scrolling and my headings would still stay in place. Another thing you can do under View is take away the grid lines if you want. I'm not really sure why you'd want to do that, but I just wanted you to know that you could. Under view, you can also make a protected range. What that means is that you can designate part of your spreadsheet that is protected. So if all of your students were working on one spreadsheet and there was part of it, perhaps you'd made a graph or something that you didn't want them to accidentally mess up or even mess up on purpose if you've got Johnny in your class who likes to be funny. You still have your version history, just like with docs, so you could go back to an older version, but you can make a protected range and prevent that problem altogether. Under Insert, notice Google is very intuitive, so it determines where you are inside the sheet and it asks, do you want to insert a row above or below, a column left or right? So it tries to help you out, and I like that a lot. A couple of the other functions that I really like, or features that I really like, because functions are a whole different thing. It does still have the comment feature that lives in other types of docs. So if my students or someone else, perhaps a colleague, was seeing this particular spreadsheet, a comment is more like starting a conversation with someone, just like it is in docs. So if I wanted to give Darth Vader a um, comment here, I could right click and simply insert a comment here. I could say, great job. So a comment is just like it is in docs, but there's also something else here. So a note is a different kind of thing that you can insert. So if I right click here, I can also insert a note. And a note is more like a personal thing that I'm trying to remember, not like trying to start a conversation with someone else. So for Scooby-Doo, perhaps I just want to remind myself to get heartworm medication. Make sure he has that because, after all, he's Scooby-Doo and we don't want him to be upset or having problems. So notice the note gives me a tiny black triangle here, and if I hover over it, I can see the note, and the comment gives me a tiny yellow triangle. If I hover over it, I can click on it and reply and that kind of thing, just like in docs. But it doesn't appear anywhere in the doc. It just kind of stays there, so it doesn't interfere with the spreadsheet, but I can still get to it, which is kind of a neat feature. Those are just a few of the things that make spreadsheets different and unique, and we still have more to learn about spreadsheets, but right now I'd like you to just go make a spreadsheet, practice with the things we just went over, and I know that you're going to become a spreadsheet person sooner or later. We all do.